Canada has been near the head of the line when it comes to growth and profits in the world. And the tyranny of the belief that the economy is what matters most to the country has transformed us to a point we can hardly recognize ourselves. George Monbiot writes, Canada, a liberal, cultured, decent country, has been transformed into a thuggish petro-state. I believe this is who we are. A country that, in spite of everything science tells us, what the changing weather tells us, is determined to squeeze every bit of oil out of the ground, to grab the last of the profits, to feed an addiction that we know is destroying a future from coming generations.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, for I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed.
Many rivers and the air in many cities remain badly polluted, and our citizens suffer from breathing that air. We lived with conditions like these for many, many years, but much that we once accepted as inevitable, we now find absolutely intolerable.
Each of us all across this great land has a stake in maintaining and improving environmental quality, clean air and clean water, the wise use of our land, the protection of wildlife and natural beauty, parks for all to enjoy. These are part of the birthright of every American. To guarantee that birthright, we must act, and act decisively. It is literally now or never.
Our program will emphasize conservation. The amount of energy being wasted, which could be saved, is greater than the total energy that we are importing from foreign countries. We will also stress development of our rich coal reserves in an environmentally sound way.
Now, it seems to me that if we would concentrate on resolving the problems of the automobile, the combustion engine, the pollution factor, and we've gone a long way in that. I think of myself as an environmentalist. I don't want to see all this beauty around us wiped out or destroyed.
We all know that human activities are changing the atmosphere in unexpected and in unprecedented ways.
I recommend that we adopt a BTU tax on the heat content of energy as the best way to provide us with revenue to lower the deficit, because it also combats pollution, promotes energy efficiency, promotes the independence economically of this country, as well as helping to reduce the debt. And it is environmentally responsible. It will help us in the future as well as in the present with the deficit.
The United States is committed to strengthening our energy security and confronting global climate change. And the best way to meet these goals is for America to continue leading the way toward the development of cleaner and more energy efficient technology.
We've got to leave this planet at least as good as the planet we inherited from our parents, but we've got a bigger problem with climate change. We sent $1 billion to foreign nations, many of them hostile, and because of our addiction to oil, and in the bargain we're melting the polar ice caps, changing the weather patterns all around the globe.
The science is clear that man-made emissions of air pollution and global warming gases are changing
global warming
our
is still an issue that the scientists are still debating, and you know it and I know it.
The debate on the causes of climate change are far from settled.
Well, the climate's always changing. That's not the fundamental question. The fundamental question is whether man-made activity is what's contributing most to.
I think CO2 is a problem, and therefore I don't think it needs to be regulated.
We all breathe CO2, climate changes, but there's no evidence at all that it's man-made CO2 that causes the climate to change.
The idea of human-induced global climate change is one of the greatest hoaxes perpetrated out of the scientific community. It is a hoax.
I'm only concerned about the incredible frenzy and hype for something that's a total myth. It's amazing to me how upset so many people are. The existence of all these billions of people on Earth have all influenced the climate of Earth, but none of it is of significance, and thank goodness, things are doing just fine.
The question is the degree to which man influences the climate, and whether actually we can this is anything we should worry about, and whether we should be bombing the global economy into the dark ages to try and stop it.
Sure, you know, the greatest hoax I think has been around in many, many years, if not hundreds of years, has been this hoax on the environment and global warming. You notice they don't call it global warming anymore.
No. It's because it's getting cooler.
It's weather control.
Yeah, it's getting cooler. You can't call it global warming anymore.
So what we need, what the world needs, is more fossil fuels. The evidence we have is not just that fossil fuels aren't ruining our planet, they're making it much better. Climate-related deaths are going down. And so what we need is many, many more fossil fuels so that people can eat and they can have food.
Years of high school Aquanet hairspray use have done more damage to the ozone than any global warming scam has.
I remember Aquanet.
Aquanet.
I remember Brill Cream, but I don't think that had anything to do with the climate.
A little dabble, do you?
That's
remember
that?
There's more. The CO2 can also go boo, 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 or boo, 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 boo.
At times when CO2 was rich in the atmosphere, there was greater growth of farms, vineyards, and so forth. I guess in England, there was a time in which the growth of vineyards was so great. There was just wine all over the place.
But I'm still open to the possibility. So if there's anyone from ExxonMobil here, I've got a bank account and routing number available for you. One could argue from an economic point of view, we should be burning fossil fuels like gangbusters to generate as much wealth as we can, divert some of that into alternative energy research, and we might get to those alternative energies faster than if we starve poor people and ruin the world's economies and reduce CO2 emissions.
There's certainly no scientific evidence that would suggest or prove that we're going to have a 50 gigaton burst of methane within the next 10 years, say, even given all of this rapid warming in the Arctic, and that will, basically end civilization, even lead to what a large following of people are talking about being near-term human extinction. The evidence is just not there. The evidence is not solid to suggest that we're in a global climate change emergency. Everything is going exponential on us, including greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere, temperature rises. So the emergency is getting more and more severe. Meanwhile, the human response is going quite well on the renewable energy front. I call that leg one of the three-legged bar stool. Renewable energy has reached parity with fossil fuels. It has actually dropped below. There's huge developments as we're making advances in battery technology. So door B is create the anthropogenic Arctic volcano, I call it, to calm the climate. Give me 2 large airplanes with pilots, some sulfur in solution, a few large nozzles, and you can inject, sulfur dioxide in the upper atmosphere and replace the, basically cool the planet. And it's a small fraction. The amount of sulfur required is a fraction, like a percent or a couple percent at most, of the sulfur that we put each year into the lower atmosphere, into the troposphere rather, to the lower atmosphere. And that's causing all of the problems. Just have to, cut that sulfur dioxide out, which we're doing. It's dropping about 2.7% per year, but not quick enough. Because it's dropping in the troposphere, the temperatures are spiking up even more. So this is one way we need to deploy this technology to try to restore a stable climate, and while we slash emissions and apply carbon dioxide removal technologies.
Very little sulfur is needed relative to the huge emissions from smokestacks in the lower atmosphere from coal-burning power plants. We know it will work. We've seen what volcanoes do. El Chichon, 82. Pinatubo, in 1991, injected 10 teragrams of sulfur into the atmosphere. Within 6 months later, there was still 6 there. It caused half a degree of cooling for up to 3 years. El Chichon was about 3 to 5 teragrams.